One other topic before we get out of here and start talking about Thanksgiving, Rex, was Tiger Woods announced he will not play in next week's Hero World Challenge, the tournament that does benefit his foundation in the Bahamas. No real surprise there. He had the microdiscectomy procedure later this fall. Updates on his status have been scarce. He will, however, still be meeting with the media early next week. You will be there before heading home after the pre-week festivities. What do you want to hear from Tiger? What are you expecting to hear? What would you like to hear? And is the PNC Championship still on the table with son Charlie?
Yes, I think the PNC is definitely on the table for a number of reasons. 1, 2 rounds. 2, he gets to ride in a golf cart. And 3, he can lean on Charlie, who gets to play shorter tees. Like it all sets up well for him. That's his 5th major. Let's be honest about it. So I wasn't surprised last night, Monday night, when we got an email from one of our bosses about the announcement that Tiger wasn't playing, because I didn't anticipate he was going to play. Like, from every indication from the camp was he's not close to being ready to compete, at least even at the Hero World Challenge. What I want to ask him really has nothing to do with his game, and I think this has been sort of the evolving relationship with Tiger Woods these years. There was always a time when the first 10 minutes of his press conferences were always filled with questions about his health and what his schedule might be like and what his expectations are. I expect that to be the last 10 minutes, if at all, because I think there's so many other things going on in the world of golf right now that he is directly responsible for. He is directly involved with. And we're talking about him being on the policy board and the negotiations with the Public Investment Fund and the changes that you and I to the PGA Tour just talked about. We haven't gotten his thoughts on these things at all. His thoughts on if U.S. Ryder Cup players should be paid. Like, there is a litany of things that I would want to ask him long before I ever got to, oh yeah, how's your back?
I know it's interesting because that was, in the mid 2010s when, he was dealing with the back injury starting out. Like, it was always, that was a topic of conversation because Tiger was still very much a foremost player on the PGA Tour. We have every metric available to us in terms of, page views or video clicks and downloads. And like, people seem to care less about how Tiger is playing right now than ever before. And yet I would argue he might be at his most interesting position just as sort of a global figure and sort of a mover and shaker in the golf world, and what he has the potential to sort of reshape the PGA Tour for the future. Again, I'm not anticipating he's going to be an open book and sharing what some of his reservations are with a potential deal with the Saudi Public Investment Fund, what he's looking for out of a deal. I'm not anticipating that, but I think his vision for what the PGA Tour could and should look like, sort of separate from PIF involvement, I think is certainly on the table and something that we need to hear from him. We certainly hear from the players who are going to be marginalized by these changes. But how about a player who has dominated the sport for 25 years? What does he see as the potential path forward? What should golf fans be excited about in the future about the PGA Tour? I think that's certainly on the table for Tiger.
And this goes well beyond, look, we would always ask Tiger Woods sort of out of left field questions because he was Tiger Woods and you wanted to get his thoughts on all manner of things, just not in the world of golf, but in the world of sports, really. In this particular case, this goes well beyond that. He's sitting in on these meetings. He will have a voice. He'll be, I don't want to overstate this, but he'll probably be the one who ultimately decides which way the policy board goes on this, simply because of who he is and the voice that he has in that room. So all of these are significant questions, not just because he's Tiger Woods. It's because he's a guy who actually has some sort of control. That this isn't him whispering in Jay Monahan's ear anymore. This is him directly involved in this particular issue and him having his opinion one way or the other.
Yeah. And are there certain factions on the PGA Tour policy board or on the transaction subcommittee? We see sort of Rory on one side. Is Tiger dragging his feet, slowing down the progress? These are all things that hopefully when we speak next Wednesday from the Hero World Challenge and you in the Bahamas, that we'll have some better insight.